Hey everybody, Anthony Bowling in another episode of Chasing Gazillions. Ain't the same as making millions. Hanging out with the Anthony Bowling Group, really local real estate professional, bringing you information, people, guests that are here to inform you about things that are important to you and your lives to make things better. We have here again our special guest, Valerio VJ Johnson, and your next Ward 7 council member here in the District of Columbia, who's bringing to you today. We're having a conversation here on Good Friday. It's not the religious Good Friday, but if you've been around as long as I have, any Friday that you are here is a Good Friday. And this one is certainly that. We got a lot of special things happening here in the city. And we want to hear from VJ about the campaign, what's been going on this week. And, and I think he's got a special topic that has happened that he wants to share with you. So everybody, that's right. Everybody, Valerio VJ Johnson, welcome to the show, VJ. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony, it is a good Friday because it is summertime and the pools are opening up, right? We have Memorial Day weekend. Everybody has an extended weekend off. And today, the mayor is going to celebrate the pools opening at Anacostia, here east of Anacostia River. Anacostia is one of the largest outdoor pools. And if you are a swimmer, you can swim 50 meters there. Or you could just, wade in the water and play, A very important pool in our city.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And we're excited that here in the District of Columbia, we are afforded as residents of the District of Columbia to enjoy a plethora of resources and benefits and privileges here in the city. So many and at such a level that oftentimes we take for granted just how fortunate we are as residents of the District of Columbia and what it is that we enjoy, like free water on a Friday before Memorial Day weekend, to be able to go down to a pool and not have to pay. That there are residents here who've lived in this city so long that they don't even think about what does it take for our government to deliver on that promise of water available for you and your children this weekend safely, to have water, first of all, in the pool, to have lifeguards, to have pool operators there, making sure the water is not turning green, and to make sure that you this weekend can go and enjoy yourself, because given that it feels like it's already above 80 degrees, people in this city, but we're talking about in Ward 7, and that's what this campaign has been about, bringing to the residents' attention those things that you don't think about. It's like, what does it take when you go into your bedroom and you flick on the switch and the light comes on? If it comes on, it comes on. You never think about it. But when you flick on that switch and the lights don't come on, that's when you notice, oh, there's a problem. And then who has to take care of it? Well, that's what we're talking about here, about making the government work for you. And that's what this show is about here today, to talk about those many resources that the city, that the government provides to us as residents of Ward 7, and we just take it for granted.
Yeah, and just to piggyback, I know that's not why we're here to talk about water and to talk about pools. But I agree with you, Anthony. I think some of these services and some of these amenities we do take for granted because if you go across the line right now, you're going to have to pay. those residents across the line have to pay, and we
By
as
across the line, you mean in Virginia and Prince George's County, Maryland?
yes, yes, you got to pay. And there's resident fees and there's non-resident fees, and that's how the counties operate for their services that they provide for their residents. And then when we think about Ward 7, I mean, we got Deanwood Recreation and Indoor Aquatic Facility. And then we have the HD Woodson indoor pool. And then we are going to get the pool in Hillcrest. So
don't forget Berry Farms.
Berry Farms is Ward 8, but yeah, it's east of the river. But it's walking distance from where we live, right, in Hillcrest. It's less than a mile, right? So you have access to 3 aquatic facilities, and then if
Ridge Road.
That's outdoor. So
that's outdoor. You say indoor.
So right. Now when we add outdoor, right, which is from May to September, you get a whole bunch more, right? You get Ridge Road, you get Kelly Miller, you get
Anacostia.
That's Ward 8. There's another pool, Benning Ridge. You get Ridge Road, Benning Park. Benning Park has a pool, right? So we have these services, man, and here's the funny thing. I started off as a lifeguard. It was 3 jobs, one non-job where I used to sell Christmas trees. I worked at Wendy's, but my primary job as a teenager in the District of Columbia was as a lifeguard. And so this is
how old were you then when you?
I think I started serving DPR at 15. Kenilworth Pool, which is Kenilworth Pool, which is a 50-minute outdoor pool. Which they closed and opened up a new pool right next to the school. And that's where I worked in the early 90s, right? So that's a service that allows our children, our teenagers, to have a job during the summer, which is a pretty cool job to have. And so the residents don't have to pay for that.
That's right.
And it is something to celebrate. It is something to take account and be appreciative of. But that's not why we're here today, but I'm glad you brought that out, because the things that the government does right, we need to celebrate, right? And the things that the government can improve, we need to highlight. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's and both.
Yes. So you're campaigning to go and serve as our next Ward 7 council member to do more for the residents of Ward 7. There's a lot that's being done. You want to highlight how we can improve doing more. Talk with us about what has been happening here in the campaign trail this week, and what is it that you envision doing more for the residents of Ward 7?
Well, just a couple of days ago, I was at Eastland Gardens. I went to their community neighborhood association meeting. They had a hybrid meeting. And I ran into an old friend who lives off of Minnesota Avenue in the Twining Greenway neighborhood, and who happens to work for DDOT. And they was over there talking to them about some of the issues with their transportation and roadways. And I had a chance to talk to them about the young lady on Alabama Avenue who Metro put a bus in front of their house. And now the young lady, she's an older resident, she's about 65, 66, something like that, with mobility issues, who now cannot park in front of her house, right? Now, that's a big fix. I'm sure it's more complicated than it sounds. But this associate of mine, this friend of mine from the neighborhood, met with her today. And in that house that I told you about that was vacant next to the house, we were able to get that grass cut and probably get some momentum on that house to put it back in production. And so this is, just me campaigning, doing the things that I know to do to help the residents of the District of Columbia. And then they had a tree. This young lady had a big old tree, which is in front of the stop sign, right? Which is overgrown, which is into the street, which is into the sidewalk. And this is something that this resident had been living with for a long time before we knocked on the door and introduced ourselves to them. So we was able to get the grass in the vacant house next door cut. We was able to get DDOT to come out and survey the land, and then DDOT is going to move to get urban forestry out there to deal with the overgrown.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah.
It's not scripted. You ready? Yeah, that's what you do as a community, man. And that's what you've been doing for decades. You just do what comes natural to you to be of service when you come upon persons and residents in our ward who are in need. But take those same three circumstances: vacant house, grass, tree, bus stop. And let's say that you are now the council member.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you hear about that same circumstance. What more can we expect from the council member regarding those three issues than our local community guy?
Well, let's not brush what just happened off, because what that lady now knows as her council member, I understand her and her issues, and I know how to make government work to resolve those issues or to bring attention to those issues where she feel like she was being heard, and then that someone tried on her behalf, right? So now as a council member, I have a chief of staff and I have staff that would do that. So I remove myself, right, from community man, and that becomes my director of constituent services, or that becomes my deputy director of constituent service, or whomever in the office who's responsible for making sure that the executive branches of the government are working. So that's very important for people to understand, that I understand as a council member how to hear them, how to problem solve, and how to deliver the results, because then my staff will be able to do it. And like we tell people on this campaign, if I don't call you back, my staff will call you back. And we're going to be in a competition to call you back, right? So you can be heard, so you can feel valued and validated, that your issues and your concerns are important. Now, we may not be able to do what you think we should be able to do about them, but they will be dealt with in a way that government allows us to deal with them. Now, those three issues as a council member, we all know the problem with WMATA. The surrounding jurisdictions won't pay their fair share. And then we have an issue of fare evasion and ridership, right? So as a council member, I have to push the executive, to push the congresswoman person, to push the region to focus on Metro. Now, also as a legislator, there's opportunity for me to legislate and redirect bus routes. In Ward 7, we have 11 bus routes. And depending on who you are and where you're going, bus service is good or bus service is bad. It's all about perspective. I'm a bus rider. We live on the 30 line. I want to go to the Wilson building. It's a straight shot for me. Bus runs every 20, 30 minutes. That's fine by me, right? And I'm also an 8-minute walk away from the Green Line train station. Boom, right? That's where we live. Some people live in the central part of the ward, like Ridge Road, the upper part of Ridge Road, where it intersects at Texas Avenue. That's a difficult spot to go anywhere from, right? So you may have to catch 2 buses to get to the metro. We have to look at rerouting how we do things. One of the solutions was the circulator. We have to fund that. We have to find 2 routes for the circulator to go in between these difficult routes where Metro exists to get people to Benning Road Metro Station or Minnesota Avenue Metro Station, right? Because what people also got to realize, Ward 7 is serviced by 7 metro stations. You have Anacostia, which is in Ward 8. You have Naylor Road, which is in Maryland. You have Potomac Avenue, which is in 6. You have Benning Road, which is in the heart of Ward 7, Minnesota Avenue, Deanwood, and on the outskirts, Capitol Heights, which is on Maryland. So we have 7 metro stations to get us in and out. But we do need to look at reconfiguring the buses so the people in the central part of the ward can get out to the main thoroughfares, Minnesota Avenue, Benning Road, Pennsylvania
Capitol.
Avenue, East Capitol, where the buses run. 96 runs up and down East Capitol. The 30 buses run up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. The V buses run up and down. The W buses run up Alabama, right? So if you're on these main thoroughfares, bus service is great. But if you're in these nuanced interior areas, we got to do some connectivity there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fight. When we look at urban forestry, it's a small, underfunded agency with a very, very big job of maintaining.
Oh, now we're talking about the tree. We moved from the bus line in front of her house to now the tree that's about to overtake her house.
Right, because the tree is not just a problem for her. The tree is a problem for the travelers, right, going east on Alabama Avenue who can't see the stop sign. So you're adding down.
Is there a stop sign there?
Big old tree blocks the stop sign. It's about this much space between the tree and the stop sign. So when you get to the tree, you see a stop sign. It's too late. You're slamming on brakes, right? So that's a public safety issue, right? So urban forestry, which is under either DDOT or the environment, needs to now be called, and whatever their schedule is, we got to light fire under them to go deal with this immediately, right? Because maybe they would do it differently if it was in Ward 3 Connecticut Avenue versus Alabama Avenue, Ward 6. So you need me as a council member to call that agency director, right? And to call that council chair of that respective committee to make sure urban forestry, which is small and underfunded, gets out there and do what they need to do before a real serious accident happens. Okay?
Yes.
Then the third issue, we have an issue of housing affordability. We have an issue of low housing stock. Well, why is this vacant property with all these tickets on the window with grass growing?
Tickets from the neighbors? No, tickets from
the government.
From the government. So you think one of the fingers of the government is aware that this house is vacant because they got a vacant sign on it.
Right. And so not to get into the weeds, but look, when the government finds out that a property is vacant, they change the status of that property. And if it's vacant and blighted, they change the property taxes on it. So now it becomes
for purposes of encouraging
development, production. Yes.
Yes.
Right. So now we go deeper. We talk to the neighbor because neighbors know everything about their neighborhood, right? At least from their perspective. And the owner dies, right? And the children are trying to figure out what's what. Can't find the children because they're not in the area, right? So this house is just collecting tickets, and the grass is overrun. So community man gets the grass cut, right? Community man calls local realtor and say, hey, let's figure out what to do with this house, right? Community man calls his old neighbor, friend who works for DDOT and say, you need to respond to this lady's legitimate concern, right? And that's one resident, 3 problems solved, right? Or at least given attention to be solved. And I think that's what we're selling.
And on that public safety one, and it's interesting that you characterize the tree a few feet from the stop sign and the potentiality of a bigger accident happening when you're slamming on those brakes and someone being struck, a pedestrian being struck.
Yeah.
And then we get the media and the attention here to the corner and everybody circulates. But I like that because I hadn't considered it in that vein. You hear the word public safety and everyone immediately thinks crime, carjacking, robberies.
Yeah.
But here is an example of a tree being a part of the public safety conversation, and a very important one to prevent a tragedy.
Yeah. And so also now here's the bigger picture for that Fort Davis community from the Fort Davis Shopping Center, right? You got the Fort Davis Shopping Center, you got the gas station, you got Pennsylvania Avenue. So I think it's from Q Street I don't know. I don't know what that next side street is, but from the shopping center, Fort Davis Shopping Center, all the way down to Q Street, it feels like a quarter-mile stretch. And all the neighbors who live there have repeatedly complained about slowing traffic. And then that takes us back down to Minnesota Avenue, right? And now we've asked DDOT to release the stats on the work that they've done on Minnesota Avenue because, hey, people are in a tizzy about Minnesota Avenue. They are upset about how they have bottlenecked and slowed the traffic down on Minnesota Avenue. But guess what? All the positive indicators of safety and security of Minnesota Avenue is up. Up. So, and DDOT is not afraid. They say, yes, we designed it to slow you all down because for a decade, there was X amount of fatalities, X amount of accidents, X amount of abundant speeding, where the average speed on Minnesota Avenue was above the legal limit. People were on average going 40 miles an hour when it's zoned 25 miles an hour.
Wow.
Right. So,
Yes.
so these are the things that government does, that community advocates or regular neighbors bring to the attention of the right folks, and then something gets done about it. It doesn't get done overnight, but then you see a byproduct of it. So expect Alabama Avenue to be to experience some kind of changes to slow people down. So those people who live all the way between the Fort Davis Recreation Center and the Fort Davis Shopping Center to feel safe and secure because people are running stop signs. And I think the first result is going to be a camera car to stop people from running those stop signs.
I'm glad you mentioned about camera. I don't know what a camera car is, but cameras.
Well, it's old school. I'm from the old school where they put photo cameras on police cars back in the day, but that's not what they're doing.
Yeah. That's right. And so I'm wondering, do we, the residents, have the opportunity to have some input into some of the traffic calming measures? I noticed, for example, I was thinking just the other day, cameras. Someone ran a light, and there was no camera, and I was saying, more cameras would deter a lot of this bad behavior because they would be issuing more tickets. And if you're hitting someone in their pocketbooks, they tend to be a lot more responsive when they know, oh, somebody was there to catch them. And you can't always have a police officer sitting here to catch you. I'm wondering, do we have a say? Does residents have a say in the types of speed calming measures that will be implemented? Is there an opportunity?
2 weeks ago, we met at Ann Beers Elementary School. In my capacity as president of the Hillcrest community, which Ann Beers is a Hillcrest school within the Hillcrest community.
Okay.
I was there and I participated in DDOT's presentation, which was a bit top heavy. The technical language of transportation and all this stuff is sometimes too much for everyday folks. But there was such a disconnect and a consistent complaint about it. We were able to encourage DDOT to come back and do it again and change it so that it could be more beneficial to the everyday person and not
user friendly.
User friendly,
yeah. User friendly, exactly.
I mean, these are the things that, and I get it, man. This campaign has been hard because I've been in Ward 7 over 20 years, and Ward 7 has historically worked against the person in office. I don't want that person in office anymore. I don't like them no more. They are disconnected, detached. They're not effective anymore. Let's get them out of office. And then you choose a person who is best suited to beat the incumbent, right? So it wasn't even about choices. It was like, who can beat this guy? Who can get this lady out, right? And so that's where people kind of operated off of. Let's get this person out,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll deal with it. So the person that's in office now is out, right? People suffered their perspective on the level of effectiveness and engagement. Unfortunately, the council member's retiring. He's dealing with health challenges. It is what it is. Plus COVID. So it's been like 4 years. Like, what are we doing, right? Stuff is being done contrary to popular belief, but the visibility part, the engagement part, the showing up at a neighbor's house, the going to the community meeting, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that people really value. That's what they really want. That's what everyday people expect to see from their elected official, especially in Ward 7. So here we are, 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins ice cream, and people are trying to figure out, do they just want to go with what they know, which is uh, Neapolitan, right? The strawberry, the chocolate, and the vanilla, which you got as a kid for every birthday party, right? Or do you want to go with, you know, caramel, mint, pistachio, macchiato, right? I don't know, right? So you got you got all these choices that's attractive, and they just, here's a sample, here's a sample, try this sample, try this sample. And you're like, yeah, I just want butter pecan. I don't know, right? So I leave you with this story. I call it a bodega, but it's a Circle 7. It's the bootleg 7-Eleven off of 295 in the Parkside neighborhood, right by the pedestrian bridge for Minnesota Avenue. And I'm in there going to get me a snack. It's like 11:15. Pull off the highway, like get something to drink, get some water, right? And I run into neighbors who are doing the same thing that I'm doing, right? Getting something to go into the house because that area doesn't have no options, right? That Circle K is it. If you want a little Debbie, if you want some hot fries, if you want a Sprite, look, you know what they got? They got Chico sticks, right? They got what you want.
They still making Chico sticks?
They got Chico sticks, right?
Oh
So
my goodness.
they got what you want in the Circle K. So I saw this neighbor and I said, yo, this is not the neighbor for this neighborhood at this time of night, right? So I ended up saying, hey, you like me, we getting snacks, I guess professional, whatever. And I asked her, I said, hey, are you prepared to vote? Are you voting? Did you vote? And she was like, I want to vote, right? And she was like, I don't know who to vote for because I don't know anybody. Physically, I haven't touched any one candidate.
Mm.
And I said, well, where do you live? And it's a new development. It's a new building right behind the Circle K. I've been living in Ward 7 for 2 years. I got a lot of mailers. I don't know how people got my my telephone number, but I've been getting texts. But I don't know any candidate. I haven't seen them. I haven't talked to them. I haven't touched them. And, it was a unique experience for me. And I was happy about it because this person got to see community man, council man, whatever you want to call, experience what they got to experience in that part of the community, in that part of the ward, in that neighborhood, that they have to, go to the neighborhood store, the Circle K, the bootleg 7-Eleven, right? Late at night, right? Because there is no other option.
Yeah.
On there, right?
No other option. Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'm here for, man. I am here for that. It does matter who your council member is. It does matter that they have to be experienced and knowledgeable about government process. But more important, they have to be able to be touched and seen and heard and experienced by you. Engaging, responsive, and accountable. That's the difference maker because most everyday Ward 7 resident may never even experience a piece of legislation that benefits them, even if they knew, right, that piece of legislation was written for them and benefited them, right? You might get 2 or 3 solid pieces of legislation as a legislator in your second council period of your first 4 years. But what people are going to remember is that you talked to them, that you called them back, that you showed up, and you gave care and concern, which validated them, right? And made them know that you heard what they were dealing with. And that's what we're doing here, man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everybody, you heard it again. That's Valerio VJ Johnson, your next Ward 7 council member, here on Chasing Gazillions. Not the same as making millions. Hanging out with the Anthony Bowling Group. Let me try to. Oh, there it is. There's the name. Got the name right there.
Put it up because I don't know if media are doing justice to this campaign, but as we knock on doors and we see people out and about, they say media ain't helping the situation.
Well, media does what media does and what motivates them. And it may not always be reporting everything about everybody equally or fairly.
Or at all. And at all.
Or at all. Or at all.
Exactly. You got to create your own media.
That's right. And thank God for social media that allows us to bring it directly to the people so they hear directly from you. We also have a QR code here on the screen. Persons who want to join your campaign can scan that. Tell the people also how they can get in touch with you, VJ.
Yeah. Go to vjforward7.com, VJFORWARD7.com. We are putting our schedule together. Early voting starts Sunday, May 26th. So if you got an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, half a day, all day, you can do something on Tuesday. You can do something on Friday. You can do something on next Tuesday, Election Day, June 4th. We are going to plug you into our matrix, and we're going to give you a shirt. We're going to pay you, give you some food, and see what you can do to help us win this election at the polls, because it is a tight race. It's neck and neck. I looked at the poll numbers today. Only 657 people have turned in their mail-in ballots, right? Through the
for early registration.
Yeah, 657 people, right? And I say, hey, I hope they all vote for me because I know that many people in Ward 7, right? So I'm happy for us. 657 works because of the amount of people we know and the amount of people who have already committed to voting and the amount of people who already said they voted. That 656 number with 10 candidates in the race is strong for VJ. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that sounds like it's right in line with your numbers.
It is right in line with our numbers. Now, if they'd have said 3,000 people turned it in, I say, wow, these other campaigns, they really getting out and getting other people to vote for them. But low turnout means good for us as a seasoned, established candidate. And honestly, we the incumbent with the incumbent going out, right? That's how you got to understand where we fit in this. And the competition is really just trying to knock us off. And I support them. They got heart. They got ambition. They got a worldview that they want to see. And the voters will let us know if we're right or if someone else is right.
There you go. Exactly. All right, everybody. Well, you heard it here on another episode of Chasing Gazillions. Not the same as making millions. Hanging out with Anthony Bowling and the Anthony Bowling Group, your local real estate professional here to provide you with a plethora, word of the day, a plethora of real estate services here in the DMV. Hey, thank you, VJ, as always, for coming on to the show. We appreciate you. We appreciate what you've done, but most importantly, we appreciate your vision for where you want to take us, the residents of Ward 7, across that bridge to the things that we both want and need here to prosper here in Ward 7. Everybody, you all have a great day. Happy Memorial Day weekend, and we will see you next week.
All right. Look for our guests. We asked some important people, some former council members to come on board. So let's see if we can get them on here.
All right.